The morning sun hadn't even cracked the horizon when Marcus Thompson heard the first scream. He bolted upright in his makeshift bed on the third floor of what used to be Davidson's hardware store, his hand instinctively reaching for the aluminum baseball bat he kept within arm's reach. The scream cut through the early dawn like a knife through butter, shrill and desperate, and then it just stopped. Dead silence. That was somehow worse than the screaming. Marcus rubbed his eyes and moved toward the boarded-up window, peering through the thin gaps between the planks. Down below, the street looked like a ghost town, abandoned cars scattered everywhere, trash blowing in the wind, and that eerie stillness that had become the new normal. 3 months ago, this had been a bustling downtown area. Now it was just another graveyard waiting to claim more victims. "You hear that?" The voice came from behind him, and Marcus didn't need to turn around to know it was Jake Williams, the former mechanic who'd become his right-hand man in this whole nightmare. Jake was always up early, said he couldn't sleep worth a damn anymore, not since his family got taken during the first week of the outbreak. Marcus got that. Most folks who'd made it this far had stories they didn't want to remember but couldn't forget. "Yeah, I heard it," Marcus replied, his eyes still scanning the street below. "East side, maybe 2 blocks over. Could be screamers, could be runners. Can't tell from here." Jake moved up beside him, clutching his modified crowbar. He'd welded some nasty-looking spikes to one end, and Marcus had seen firsthand how effective it was at putting down the dead. "We should check it out. If there's someone alive out there, they ain't gonna last long on their own." Marcus considered it. Every instinct told him to stay put, keep their heads down, and wait it out. But that same instinct had gotten a lot of people killed in the early days. The ones who survived weren't the ones who played it safe, they were the ones who adapted, who took calculated risks, who remembered that in this new world, you were only as strong as the group you kept. And their group, small as it was, needed every able body they could find. "Wake the others," Marcus said finally. "But keep it quiet. We move in 15, light and fast. If it's nothing, we're back before breakfast. If it's something, we deal with it." 15 minutes later, Marcus led a team of 5 through the back exit of the hardware store. Besides Jake, there was Rebecca Martinez, a former EMT who'd saved more lives in the past 3 months than Marcus could count. She carried a fire axe in a medical bag that she refused to go anywhere without. Then there was Tommy Bradford, a college kid who'd been home from university when everything went to hell. The kid was barely 22 but had proven himself handy with a hunting rifle his dad had taught him to shoot. Rounding out the group was Denise Walker, a middle-aged woman who'd been a high school gym teacher before the world ended. She might have been pushing 50, but she was tougher than boot leather and twice as mean when she needed to be. They moved through the alley like shadows, keeping close to the walls, avoiding the main streets where the dead tended to congregate. The sun was starting to peek over the buildings now, casting long shadows across the broken pavement. Marcus held up a fist, and everyone froze. Up ahead, he could see movement, lots of it. A whole pack of them, maybe 15 or 20 zombies, all clustered around something. They were the slow ones, the shambler types, but that didn't make them any less dangerous. Get surrounded by enough of them, and you were done for. "What are they doing?" Tommy whispered, his voice barely audible. Rebecca leaned forward, squinting. "There's someone in that car. See it? The blue sedan. Someone's trapped inside." Marcus saw it now. The car was completely surrounded, the zombies pressing against the windows, their rotting hands leaving smears of God knows what on the glass. Inside, he could make out at least one person, maybe 2, hard to tell with all the undead bodies blocking the view. The car wasn't going anywhere, it was sitting on 4 flat tires, probably had been there all night. "We can't leave them," Denise said, and there was steel in her voice. Before the outbreak, she'd been the kind of teacher who never gave up on a student, no matter how much trouble they caused. That determination hadn't changed, just shifted focus. I know, Marcus said, already running through scenarios in his head. But we do this smart. Tommy, you get up high, find a good vantage point. That office building across the street, second floor should work. Don't fire unless absolutely necessary, we don't want to attract more of them. Rebecca, Denise, you're with me. We're gonna thin the herd, create an opening. Jake, you get to that car, get whoever's inside out and ready to move. Once we start, we don't stop until we're clear. Everyone good? Nods all around. They'd done this dance before, just never with quite this many zombies. But there was no time for doubt. Marcus gripped his bat tighter and moved forward, the others fanning out beside him. The zombies hadn't noticed them yet. The dead had terrible situational awareness unless you made noise or got close enough for them to smell you. That was both a blessing and a curse. Marcus picked up a chunk of broken concrete and hurled it at the nearest zombie, a former businessman still wearing the tattered remains of a suit. The rock caught the thing square in the back of the head, and it turned around with that horrible jerking motion they all had. Its eyes, milky white and empty, locked onto Marcus, and it let out a low moan that made his skin crawl. That moan got the attention of 3 more, then 5, then half the group. Perfect. Come on, you ugly bastards, Marcus muttered, backing up slowly. That's right, follow me. The zombies shuffled toward him, picking up speed as they got closer. Marcus waited until they were about 10 feet away, then he swung the bat with everything he had. The aluminum connected with the businessman zombie's skull with a sickening crack, and the thing dropped like a sack of potatoes. But there was no time to celebrate. 2 more were already on him. He sidestepped one, bringing the bat down on its head, then used the momentum to swing back up into the jaw of the second. Teeth and black blood flew, and both zombies collapsed. To his left, Denise was wielding a machete she'd picked up from the hardware store's inventory, moving with the precision of someone who'd spent years teaching self-defense. She was fast, efficient, wasting no movement. Each swing was deliberate, aimed at the head or neck, dropping zombies one after another. Rebecca was right there with her, the fire axe rising and falling in a brutal rhythm. Jake had made it to the car and was pounding on the window. Hey! You in there! We're getting you out, but you gotta move when I say move, understand? From inside the car, a woman's face appeared at the window, young, maybe mid-20s, absolutely terrified. She nodded frantically. Behind her, Marcus could see someone else, smaller. A kid. Damn it. The stakes had just gotten higher. A gunshot rang out, and one of the zombies near Jake's head exploded in a shower of dark gore. Tommy, doing his job from the second floor. The shot had the intended effect. Several zombies that had been focused on the car turned toward the sound, creating the opening they needed. Now, Jake! Marcus shouted. Jake yanked the car door open, and the woman practically fell out, clutching a little boy who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Run! Jake yelled, pointing toward the alley where they'd come from. Straight down that alley, don't look back. The woman didn't need to be told twice. She took off like a sprinter, the kid bouncing in her arms. But the movement attracted attention. 3 zombies broke off from the main group, heading straight for them. Marcus's heart lurched. They weren't going to make it. I got them. Denise shouted, already moving. She intercepted the first zombie with a flying tackle that would have made her football team proud, driving her machete down through its eye socket. The second one reached for her, but Rebecca was there, the fire axe taking its head clean off at the shoulders. The third one got past them both, its arms outstretched toward the running woman. Another gunshot. The zombie's knee exploded, and it went down hard. The woman kept running, disappearing into the alley. Marcus felt a surge of relief, but it was short-lived. The gunshots had done what gunshots always did, they'd rung the dinner bell. From every direction, he could hear them coming. More zombies, drawn by the noise, shambling out of buildings and side streets like the world's worst flash mob. "Time to go!" Marcus yelled. "Everyone back to base, move it!" They ran. There was no dignity in it, no heroic last stands. Just pure survival instinct kicking in, pushing them to move faster than they thought possible. Jake led the way, his longer legs eating up the distance. Rebecca and Denise were right behind him, and Marcus brought up the rear, constantly looking over his shoulder. The zombies were coming, a growing wave of rotting flesh and gnashing teeth. Some were slow, but others, the fresher ones, the ones who'd turned recently, they could really move. Tommy appeared from a fire escape, hitting the ground running and falling in beside Marcus. "That was fun," he gasped, his face flushed with adrenaline. "Let's never do that again." "Agreed," Marcus panted. They made it back to the hardware store with maybe 30 seconds to spare. The zombies were close enough that Marcus could smell them, that awful combination of decay and something chemical, like formaldehyde. Jake had the back door open, ushering everyone inside. Marcus was last in, and he helped Jake slam the door shut, throwing the heavy bolt into place. Something hit the door from the outside a second later, then again, then multiple impacts as the dead caught up and started pressing against the barrier. "They gonna get through that?" the woman asked. She was sitting on the floor, the little boy clutched tight to her chest, both of them shaking like leaves. "Not a chance," Marcus said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The door was solid steel, salvaged from a bank vault during one of their early scavenging runs. It had held so far. "You're safe. For now." Rebecca was already kneeling beside them, her EMT training kicking in. "Are either of you hurt? Any bites, scratches?" The woman shook her head violently. "No, nothing like that. We've been in that car since yesterday afternoon. Thought we could wait them out, but they just kept coming." "What's your name?" Denise asked, her voice gentler now than it had been during the fight. "Angela. Angela Morrison. This is my son, Danny." The little boy buried his face in his mother's shoulder, not looking at any of them. "Well, Angela, you picked a hell of a parking spot," Jake said with a grin, trying to lighten the mood. "But you're with us now. You're gonna be okay." Marcus watched the exchange, felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. 2 more mouths to feed, 2 more people to protect. But also 2 more lives saved, 2 more souls who might make it through this nightmare. That had to count for something. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you upstairs, get some food in you. Then we'll figure out the next step." The next step. That was the thing about this new world, there was always a next step, always another problem to solve, another threat to deal with. The group had been holed up in the hardware store for almost 2 weeks now, and their supplies were starting to run low. They'd picked the place clean of anything useful, and the surrounding buildings weren't much better. Soon, they'd have to make a choice, venture further out for supplies or try to find a new base of operations entirely. Upstairs, the rest of the group was waiting. There were 12 of them total now, counting Angela and Danny. 12 people in a world that seemed determined to kill them all. The 3rd floor had been converted into a living space, with sleeping areas sectioned off by sheets and blankets, a central area for eating and planning, and a corner dedicated to their supplies. It wasn't much, but it was home. "Everyone, this is Angela and Danny," Marcus announced. "They're with us now." A chorus of hellos and welcomes followed. Marcus noticed how Danny peeked out from behind his mother, his eyes wide as he took in all the new faces. The kid probably hadn't seen this many living people in one place since the outbreak started. "You hungry, little man?" That was Gloria Patterson, a grandmother who'd lost her entire family but somehow kept going anyway. She had a way with kids, always had snacks saved up for them. Danny nodded shyly, and Gloria smiled. "Come on, let's see what we got." As Gloria led Angela and Danny away to get them settled, Marcus gathered his core team, Jake, Rebecca, Denise, and Tommy. They moved to the corner they'd designated as the planning area, where they'd pinned up a map of the city on the wall. Red X's marked areas that were too dangerous, too overrun. Green circles marked potential supply spots. Blue triangles were other survivor groups they'd encountered. There were more red X's than anything else. "We can't stay here much longer," Marcus said, keeping his voice low. "We're burning through our food too fast, and that little adventure this morning probably attracted every zombie in a 5-block radius. This place is gonna be surrounded before nightfall." "So what are you thinking?" Rebecca asked. "We make a run for it. Try to get out of the city?" Marcus shook his head. "Too risky. The highways are death traps, you know that. Cars jammed up for miles, thousands of zombies wandering around. We'd never make it on foot, not with the whole group." "What about the community center?" Tommy suggested, pointing at the map. "It's about a mile north, right on the edge of downtown. My mom used to volunteer there. The place is built like a fortress, brick walls, limited entry points, and it's got a big rooftop garden that people use for classes. We could grow food." Jake studied the map. "That's a solid idea, kid. But getting there's gonna be the problem. A mile might as well be 100 in this city. We'd have to go right through the downtown core, and that place is crawling with them." "Not if we use the underground," Denise said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. "The city has a whole network of maintenance tunnels and old transit passages. I used to take students on field trips through them, back in the day. If we can access the system, we could move beneath the streets, avoid most of the zombies entirely." Marcus felt a spark of hope. "You know how to navigate down there?" "I've got a pretty good memory," Denise said. "And before you ask, yes, there's an access point about 2 blocks from here. Old maintenance entrance in the basement of the Riverside building. If we can get to it, we can get to the community center." "Big if," Jake pointed out. 2 blocks might not sound like much, but after this morning, those streets are gonna be hot." "Then we wait," Marcus said. "Let things cool down. We've got enough supplies to last another couple days if we ration carefully. We use that time to prep, gather what we can carry, and plan the route down to the last detail. Then we move as one group, fast and quiet." It was a plan, or at least the beginning of one. Marcus could see the others turning it over in their minds, looking for flaws, trying to poke holes in the logic. That was good. That kind of critical thinking kept people alive. "I'm in," Rebecca said finally. "Beats sitting here waiting for our luck to run out." "Same," Tommy added. Jake and Denise nodded their agreement. "All right then," Marcus said. "We've got work to do. Jake, you and Tommy start inventorying everything we can take with us. Rebecca, check our medical supplies, see what we're short on. Denise, sketch out that tunnel system as best you can remember. I'll break the news to everyone else and start organizing packing teams." They dispersed, each moving with purpose. Marcus took a moment to look around the 3rd floor, at the people who'd become his responsibility, his family in this twisted new reality. Gloria was sitting with Danny and Angela, the little boy actually smiling at something she'd said. Others were gathered in small groups, talking quietly, cleaning weapons, or just staring off into space with that 1,000-yard stare that was becoming all too common. "Listen up, everyone," Marcus called out, and the room fell silent. "I know we've been through a lot these past few weeks, and I know you're all tired. But we've got a chance to find somewhere better, somewhere safer. It's gonna be risky, and it's gonna be hard, but I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't think we could make it." He laid out the plan, keeping it simple and straightforward. To his relief, there were no objections, just nods of understanding. These people trusted him, and that was both humbling and terrifying. He couldn't let them down. The rest of the day was spent in preparation. Backpacks were filled with essentials: food, water, medical supplies, tools, weapons. Anything that couldn't be carried was hidden away in the hope that they might someday return for it. Denise worked on her map of the tunnel system, sketching it out from memory and cross-referencing it with some old city planning documents they'd found in the hardware store's office. By evening, they had a route that looked feasible, assuming the tunnels were clear. That night, Marcus took the first watch. He sat by the window, looking out at the street below. The zombies had indeed gathered in greater numbers, drawn by the morning's commotion. There had to be 40 or 50 of them down there, just wandering aimlessly, bumping into cars and each other. In the fading light, they looked almost human, almost normal. But Marcus knew better. Those things weren't human anymore. They were shells, empty vessels driven by some base instinct to feed. Can't sleep? Angela appeared beside him, moving quietly. Danny was curled up on a sleeping mat nearby, finally resting after the trauma of the day. Someone's gotta keep watch, Marcus replied. She nodded, sitting down cross-legged on the floor. I wanted to thank you for what you did this morning. We would have died in that car. You don't have to thank me. We look out for each other now. That's how we survive. How long have you been doing this? Leading people, I mean. Marcus thought about it. Since the beginning, I guess. Didn't set out to be a leader. Just started making decisions, and people started following. Turns out, when the world falls apart, someone's gotta step up. Were you military? Police? He laughed quietly. Nothing that cool. I was a project manager at a construction company. Spent my days pushing paper and making sure deadlines were met. Not exactly apocalypse training. Seems like you're doing okay, Angela said. We're alive, Marcus corrected. That's about all I can claim. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the dead mill about below. Finally, Angela spoke again. My husband didn't make it. First week, he went out looking for supplies and never came back. I kept hoping, kept thinking maybe he was out there somewhere, that he'd find his way back to us. But after a while, I had to accept the truth. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and he meant it. Danny still asks about him sometimes. I don't know what to tell him. How do you explain all of this to a 6-year-old? I don't know, Marcus admitted. But kids are resilient. More than we give them credit for. He's got you, and now he's got all of us. That's something. Angela wiped at her eyes. Yeah, it is. She stayed with him for another hour, and they talked about small things, normal things, memories of the world before, favorite foods they missed, places they'd always wanted to visit. It was a brief escape from the nightmare outside, and Marcus found himself grateful for it. The next 2 days passed in a blur of activity. The group worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for their journey through the tunnels. Denise had completed her map, identifying potential hazards and alternate routes. Tommy and Jake had organized their supplies into manageable loads, ensuring everyone could carry their share without being weighed down. Rebecca had done a full medical check on everyone, treating minor injuries and ailments that could become major problems in the tunnels. On the morning of the third day, Marcus gathered everyone for a final briefing. Once we're in those tunnels, we stay together. No one wanders off, no one falls behind. We move quiet and we move smart. If we encounter zombies down there, we handle them silently if possible. The last thing we want is to attract attention or get trapped underground. Everyone clear? A chorus of affirmatives answered him. All right then. Pack up. We leave in 30 minutes. Those 30 minutes felt like both an eternity and an instant. Marcus did a final check of the hardware store, making sure they weren't leaving anything critical behind. It felt strange, abandoning the place that had kept them safe for so long, but he knew it was necessary. They'd stripped it of everything useful, and staying any longer would only increase the risk. At precisely 0800 hours, they opened the back door. The alley was clear. Most of the zombies were still congregating on the main street out front, drawn by the residual noise and scent from days prior. The group moved out in a tight formation, with Jake on point and Marcus bringing up the rear. Between them, the other 10 members of their makeshift family carried everything they owned in this world. The Riverside building was 2 blocks northeast, and the first block went smoothly. They stuck to the alleys and side streets, avoiding open areas where they might be spotted. The morning was overcast, with heavy clouds threatening rain. That was good. Zombies seemed more sluggish in the rain, though Marcus had no idea why. The second block proved more challenging. They had to cross a main intersection, and there were at least a dozen zombies scattered across it. Jake signaled for everyone to freeze, then pointed to a route that would take them through a parking garage, longer, but covered and potentially safer. They filed into the garage, moving between the abandoned vehicles. The darkness was oppressive, broken only by the weak daylight filtering through the entrance. Marcus felt his heart rate pick up. Enclosed spaces like this were dangerous. If they got cornered, there'd be nowhere to run. A sound echoed through the garage, a wet, dragging footstep. Everyone froze. Marcus held his breath, straining to locate the source. There, between a pickup truck and a minivan, a zombie emerged. It was in bad shape, missing an arm and most of its jaw, but it had spotted them. It let out a garbled moan. Jake moved before it could make another sound, his spiked crowbar punching through its skull with practiced efficiency. The zombie dropped, but the damage was done. From deeper in the garage, more moans answered. They weren't alone down here. Go, go, go! Marcus hissed, urgency lending speed to the group. They ran through the garage, no longer worried about stealth. Zombies emerged from behind cars and support pillars, some fast, some slow, all of them hungry. Gloria had Danny on her back in an improvised carrier, the little boy clinging tight with his eyes squeezed shut. Angela was right beside them, a kitchen knife gripped in white-knuckled hands. Rebecca swung her fire axe, taking down a zombie that got too close. Denise was right there with her machete, the 2 women working in sync. Tommy had his rifle up but didn't fire. The noise would be catastrophic. Instead, he used it like a club, the stock smashing into a zombie's face. The exit appeared ahead, blessed daylight streaming in. They burst out of the garage and into a side street, still running. Behind them, the moans grew louder as more zombies joined the pursuit. Marcus did a quick head count as they ran, 12, everyone was still there, still moving. The building! Denise shouted, pointing ahead. The Riverside building loomed before them, a 6-story structure that had once housed offices and retail spaces. More importantly, it housed their access to the tunnel system. The front entrance was blocked by abandoned cars and debris, but Jake had scouted an alternative, a loading dock around the side. They reached it in record time, and Jake and Tommy immediately set to work on the rolling door, forcing it up with crowbars. It rose with a screech of protesting metal, revealing a dark interior. Inside, everyone inside. Marcus ordered. They piled in, and Marcus helped Jake and Tommy force the door back down. It slammed shut just as the first zombies rounded the corner, their rotting faces twisted in mindless hunger. The door shuddered under their impacts, but it held. That was too close, Rebecca panted, bent over with her hands on her knees. Is everyone okay? Marcus asked, still running on adrenaline. Anyone hurt? Everyone checked themselves and each other. Miraculously, no one had been bitten or injured. They'd made it. We can't stay here long, Denise said. That door won't hold forever, and more will come. We need to find the access tunnel. The loading dock opened into what had been a warehouse area, now filled with dusty boxes and abandoned equipment. Denise led them through it, following some internal map only she could see. They navigated hallways and storage rooms, descended 2 flights of stairs, and finally arrived at a heavy metal door marked Maintenance, Authorized Personnel Only. This is it, Denise said. beyond this door is a stairwell that leads down to the tunnel system. Jake tried the handle. Locked. Stand back, he said, positioning his crowbar. It took 3 solid hits, but the lock gave way, and the door swung open. A rush of cool, damp air hit them, carrying the smell of concrete and stagnant water. Flashlights on, Marcus ordered. Half a dozen beams clicked to life, illuminating a metal staircase that descended into darkness. Nice and easy. Watch your step. They descended single file, the stairs clanging softly under their feet. Down, down, down they went, until Marcus lost count of the steps. Finally, they reached the bottom and found themselves in a large tunnel, easily 20 feet across and 10 feet high. Water trickled along a channel in the center, and the walls were lined with pipes and cables. Which way? Jake asked. Denise consulted her sketched map. North. We follow this tunnel for about half a mile, then take the second junction to the right. That should bring us up near the community center. They set off, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The tunnel was eerily quiet, every sound magnified, their footsteps, their breathing, the drip of water. Marcus found himself constantly looking over his shoulder, unable to shake the feeling that they were being followed. They'd been walking for maybe 20 minutes when Tommy spoke up. "Hey, you guys hear that?" Everyone stopped. Marcus listened intently. At first, there was nothing, just the ambient sounds of the tunnel. Then he heard it, a low scraping sound, like something being dragged across concrete. And it was coming from behind them. "Move," Marcus said quietly. "Pick up the pace, but stay together." They walked faster, the scraping sound keeping pace with them. Marcus risked a glance back, his flashlight beam sweeping the tunnel behind them. For a moment, he saw nothing. Then movement, just at the edge of his light. A figure, shambling forward. Then another. Then more. "We got company," he shouted. Double time. They ran. The tunnel echoed with the sound of their footfalls and the growing chorus of moans behind them. How had zombies gotten down here? Had they followed them in, or had they been down here all along, drawn by the sound? There. The junction. Denise pointed ahead to where the tunnel branched off to the right. They took the turn hard, feet splashing through the shallow water. Behind them, the zombies followed with relentless determination. The tunnel sloped upward now, which was good, they were getting closer to the surface. But the incline slowed them down, especially those carrying heavier loads. Marcus saw Gloria struggling, Danny bouncing on her back. He moved up beside her. "Give him to me," he said, and without waiting for an answer, he helped transfer the boy to his own back. Danny's small arms locked around his neck, and Marcus ran with renewed purpose. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, some kind of junction point where multiple passages met. In the center was a ladder leading up to a manhole cover. "That's our exit." Denise gasped. "That should put us right in the community center's parking lot." Jake was already at the ladder, climbing. He reached the top and pushed against the manhole cover. It didn't budge. "It's stuck," he yelled down. "Must be blocked from above." The moans were getting closer. Marcus could see flashlight beams from the others dancing across the walls as they turned to look back the way they'd come. The zombies would be on them in seconds. "Everyone, up the ladder, now!" Marcus commanded. We all pushed together. They climbed in a rush, piling onto the ladder one above the other. Marcus was near the bottom with Danny still on his back. Above him, he could hear the others straining against the manhole cover. "Push!" Jake roared. There was a grinding sound, then a crack as whatever was blocking the cover gave way. Daylight flooded the chamber, beautiful and blinding. They scrambled up and out like their lives depended on it, which they absolutely did. Marcus handed Danny up to Angela, then pulled himself out of the manhole. They were indeed in a parking lot, and in front of them stood the community center, exactly where Denise had said it would be. But there was no time to celebrate. The moans echoing from the manhole reminded them that they weren't safe yet. "Someone help me with this." Jake was already trying to drag something heavy toward the manhole. It was a concrete parking barrier, the kind used to mark parking spaces. Marcus and Tommy joined him, and together they manhandled it over the opening. It wouldn't stop the zombies completely, but it would slow them down. They ran for the community center's entrance. The doors were glass, and Marcus could see that the interior looked intact, mostly undamaged. Jake didn't hesitate. He smashed one of the glass panels with his crowbar, reached through, and unlocked the door from the inside. They piled into the building, and Marcus immediately started looking for something to barricade the entrance. There was a reception desk that looked heavy enough. "Help me with this," he said, and several others jumped in. They shoved it against the door just as the first zombie appeared in the parking lot, having somehow gotten past their concrete barrier. More zombies followed, emerging from the manhole like some kind of nightmare clown car. But they were inside now, and the barricade would hold, at least for a while. Marcus did another head count, 12, everyone had made it. They were battered, exhausted, and terrified, but they were alive. "Let's clear the building," Marcus said once he'd caught his breath. "Make sure we're alone in here." They split into teams and went room by room. The community center was bigger than he'd expected. There was a gymnasium, several classrooms, a kitchen, offices, and, as Tommy had promised, a rooftop garden area. Best of all, there were no zombies. The building was empty, a perfect shelter. As the sun began to set, they gathered in what had been the center's main hall. Outside, zombies pressed against the windows and doors, but the building was solid. They'd reinforced the barricades, found multiple exits in case they needed to evacuate, and even discovered some canned goods in the kitchen that previous occupants had left behind. "We made it," Rebecca said, and there was wonder in her voice, as if she couldn't quite believe it. "We made it," Marcus agreed. He looked around at the faces of his group, his family. They were dirty, tired, and scared, but they were here. They'd survived another day in a world that seemed determined to kill them. Little Danny had fallen asleep in his mother's arms, finally safe enough to rest. Gloria was already talking about what they could plant in the rooftop garden. Jake and Denise were discussing fortification strategies. Tommy was cleaning his rifle, preparing for tomorrow's challenges. This was it, Marcus realized. This was what they were fighting for, not just survival, but the chance to build something, to create a pocket of humanity in a world of death. The community center could be more than just a shelter. It could be a home, maybe even the beginning of something bigger. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. They'd need to scout the area, look for supplies, figure out sustainable food and water sources. There would be more zombies to fight, more narrow escapes, more losses. But tonight, they could rest. Tonight, they were safe. Marcus walked to a window and looked out at the darkening streets. The zombies were still out there, thousands of them, an endless tide of death. But inside these walls were 12 people who refused to give up, who'd looked at the end of the world and decided to keep fighting anyway. "Hey, boss." Jake appeared beside him. "You did good today. Got us all here in one piece." "We all did good," Marcus corrected. "This is a team effort." "Yeah, but every team needs a leader. And we got a damn good one." Marcus didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. Outside, a zombie pressed its face against the window, its dead eyes staring at him without seeing. Marcus stared back, unflinching. "This is our world now," he said quietly. "And we're gonna take it back, one day at a time, one building at a time." "Amen to that," Jake said. As night fell over the city, the community center stood as a beacon of hope in an ocean of darkness. Inside, 12 survivors settled in, finding corners to sleep in, sharing the last of their day's rations, and talking quietly about plans for tomorrow. They'd been through hell and come out the other side, and while the war was far from over, they'd won this battle. Marcus took the first watch again, sitting by the window with his baseball bat across his knees. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, about the people they'd lost along the way, about the uncertainty of what tomorrow would bring. But mostly, he thought about the 12 lives depending on him, and he made a silent promise to himself that he'd do whatever it took to keep them safe, to give them a chance at something more than just survival. The zombies could have the streets, the buildings, the whole broken city. But this place, this community center, was theirs. And they'd defend it with everything they had, because in a world where everything had fallen, they'd found something worth standing for, each other, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity had a future after all.